Welcome to the Core Women Podcast, the place for women entrepreneurs, authors, and self-starters looking to build community and gain valuable insight through expert interviews with women at the top of their game. Join your host, podcaster, producer, expert coach, entrepreneur, and author, Dr. Summer Watson, as she aims to inspire and empower you through these candid conversations. Lean in and embrace the journey. It's time to start the show. Here's your host, Dr. Summer Watson.
Today on the show, I would like to welcome Corin, Grillo, who is the author of Angel Wealth Magic and the Angel Experiment. She is also a Chicana and Puerto Rican mother, a licensed psychotherapist, visionary leader, inspirational speaker, and proprietor of the Casa Condor Retreat Center in Mount Shasta, California. There is so much to talk about here. Let's jump right into this and welcome, Corin.
Thanks for having me, Summer. So great to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we delve into your professional background, can you describe your journey in one word?
Yes, miraculous. Miraculous, yes.
Interesting. Tell us more. Why that word?
Essentially every area of my life, including business and what I do we call it work, but a lot of times it mostly feels like play. It is bizarre that I've had the run that I've had, where I stand today. 20-year-old me would be so not even believing what I'm doing for a living and the stuff that I get to do. And I think one of the most miraculous parts is I actually enjoy my life, which I did not for the first several decades. So on many levels, miraculous. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Well, my next question is, and it's a bit of a follow-up on maybe what you just said. Give us a glimpse of where you grew up, some of the things that impacted your life, and how you've developed your passions to where you are today in your professional history.
Yeah, well, my father did 2 tours in Vietnam. And when he came back, this is back in the day, they didn't have a lot of mental health. So we struggled a lot dealing with his PTSD and his alcoholism. And so it was very intense upbringing because he was, unmedicated and didn't have access to therapy. People just didn't do that back then. So it was very violent, growing up. And there was just a lot of hardship growing up and also poverty. My mother eventually left him and we were in a really bad place financially, though we were free. I don't blame my dad. I have a good relationship with him now. So, my mother passed away when I was a teenager. And I think with all of that, by the time I was 18, I remember having my first thoughts of being ready to die. And I think, I still played a good game. Luckily, I was good in school, so I ended up going to college, but I always had this devastating inner world that pretend like everything's okay on the outside, do what you're supposed to do just because you can. So I went to school and did that stuff, but eventually just the world caved in on me. And after my mom died, I started using drugs and just exacerbating my intense loneliness and feeling essentially abandoned. It was just really me. So yeah, that's kind of set the tone for my life, where it's just kind of fake it till you make it, and every day hoping that day would be my last. And that went on for about probably 15 years. Even though I got married, I had a kid, it was still a struggle. And it was almost as if the older I got, the more the intensity of my inner life came forward. So yeah, that's kind of the beginning. I ended up getting a master's degree in psychology eventually, but still deeply struggled with depression. And it wasn't until I connected with really my spiritual side in a very potent and powerful way. Specifically, angels are the ones that kind of ushered that in a very real way, that my life began to change in radical and miraculous ways towards the positive.
Yeah. Well, and we are going to get into the whole concept of angels because I want to hear more, but that is an interesting background, your insight into that is really strong. And so you can tap back into that. Let me ask you a question because there's a lot of similarities here. My bio dad didn't go to war, but he was very abusive. And so when I was growing up, it was very tumultuous, abusive. He was erratic, his behavior, same kinds of things. And yet I wanted to, like you, show the world that I'm okay. Everything's functioning well. But I never felt that draw to like, oh my gosh, I'm going to hurt myself, or I'm going to, I feel like I didn't feel that overwhelmed, although there was a lot of overwhelm. I think I just started shutting down. But my question to you, because this really helped me, as you were going through your master's program, did any of that help support your insight, your growth, and how you tapped into what was going on with you internally? Because I know for me, it really helped.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you do an intensive program like that, you have no choice. But and I think, to be honest, that was the first time I was forced to do therapy, because I didn't even do it when I should have, even after my mom died. And, I was just like, no, I was too proud, or I had my shit, I don't need anything. I don't need anybody. And on the side and on the inside, I'm super crippled emotionally. But yeah, it really did help. And it helped to give me more, what's the word? I guess objectivity in some of the family dynamics as well, helped me become a little more objective about what was going on. So, I mean, as far as insight, yes, I wouldn't say that it helped me heal though, but it helped give me great insight and more, I guess, understanding, compassion for my family, but also in a way, kind of equalized the playground between my mother's complicity and my father's, because in the past it's just like, oh, let's blame him. It's like, well,
right.
As a mother myself,
Right.
yeah.
Right. And I like how you said that, equalize. So it gave you that objectivity to look at both sides and to look at where both of them kind of struggled.
And the role that I played, which was very much like the mascot, I'm the comic relief in the family. And so that was my role. I'm doing good in school, and I kept a low profile unless it was comic relief, pretty much. So that was my role. And that was my limitation, which I think built the pressure inside of me to like not be able to put that clown suit away and just be a human person with emotions. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you had these different roles that you were playing to survive rather than thrive at that point. So let's get into, because it's going to lead us into the question about the angels, but tell us a bit more about your new book, Angel Wealth Magic, and the simple steps to hire the divine and unlock your miraculous financial flow. As we discuss this, we'll get into more questions related to who are these angels. So tell us about this new book.
Yeah. So this new book, I mean, just like my previous one, is really designed towards helping people open up to the stream of what's possible. And when I say what's possible, I mean absolute miracles. Because when I encountered the angels, I witnessed a miracle, and that miracle just knocked my socks off and also shifted me, changed me on the inside. And so that's when I stopped just believing in the possibility of the divine existing, but knew the reality that there's some really intense support for us if we learn how to engage it. So this particular book, where my first book really helps people open up their whole life, their heart, their mind, and to find relief in working with angels to kind of decrust from a life of trauma and open their heart essentially to the love that's there and the miracles that are there waiting for all of us. This book really focuses on helping people dream bigger with the support of angels, learn how to trust their guidance, their intuition, that could lead them to more success. And this book specifically, or at least the angels, really wanted to target people who are mission-based, heart-based, and really invite them into thinking about wealth in a whole different way. because heart-centered folks tend to underestimate their power, and they tend to be, what's the word, very humble often. And so with that comes, they don't necessarily always dream about making millions of dollars. They just want enough to support their family. And the sense that I got when I was writing this book from Spirit is like, no, let's ask for more, because when you have more, you tip the balance. And meaning when heart-centered folks claim their economic power as well, then they can fund the causes that they love the most, with people doing good work around the world. They can fund their own dreams. And also economic power means, like I said, you can shift policies and things like that. So this book is designed to help people also attract financial wealth, like fast cash, but also think about wealth as far as a long-term goal, and how to work with spirit, work with angels, and work with their own connection to the mystery to elevate their financial potential and to become essentially magnets for awesomeness.
Oh, that is fantastic. I love the whole concept of this book. Now, can you describe your concept of angel and how we might approach hiring angel and spirit allies to unlock our next level of wealth?
Yes. So a lot of us, in particular entrepreneurs, it's sometimes a very lonely pursuit. And, you hire people, physical consultants to come and help you. Angels, for me, when it comes to wealth attraction, or really anything attraction, love attraction, peace attraction, joy attraction, they are almost like it's engaging an aspect of life that bridges the gap between the human self and the creator of all that is, whatever we want to identify it as. And I do want to say, when we talk about angels, people automatically have this concept of this Judeo-Christian version of angel. But I just want to say angels are messengers, and messengers come in a lot of different ways. So I do want to honor ancestors as messengers as well, or animals or nature also as a messenger, because profound communication goes on with all of those beings. And I just, again, want to open up the playground for all of us to participate in an authentic way, as opposed to like a religious way, which is not how I encountered the divine. I was actually quite the opposite of doing the religious thing. I was drinking a tequila, a whole bottle of tequila every 2 days. And so I just want to say, angels go beyond religion. They have been here, from my perspective, from the beginning of time, supporting folks in a variety of different ways, and kind of shape shift to whatever the mind requires, but they're just here to help.
Right. And that is exactly why I wanted you to describe your concept of angel, because I think that when we hear the word angel, we're geared towards something specific. Mm-hmm. And I think you have a very specific concept of angel and what that looks like, and how we might approach hiring or utilizing that internal or that spiritual angel as an ally to unlock that wealth. So tell us about that evolution for you, how you have found the spirit allies to help you as well as help others.
Yes. So they can help in a variety of different ways, but I do want to address that one of the deepest ways that they can support us is by anchoring us more deeply into our heart, into who we are. And if you believe in having a purpose, or that you are a soul, or you have a sense that you came here for something and you can't quite put your finger on it, angels have historically been known not just to be messengers, but to really be, in a way, initiators. And that's what I have found working with these realms have helped me with, initiating me into a different level of awareness or consciousness, heart consciousness specifically, and anchoring us more deeply into our natural gifts and wisdom. So, and the book is really about wealth attraction, but I just want to say that it's beyond wealth. It's a different kind of wealth also. So the best kind of external wealth for me comes from a fountain inside of you that is hard to describe, but it is a pulse of love, and it's almost a combination of love and power that we have inside of us that angels can tap us into.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to piggyback off something that you just said. Can you explain what channel writing is and how this helps support our wealth as well as other aspects of our lives? Because I believe that what you're speaking to doesn't just have to do with wealth, but it has to do with multiple areas of our lives.
Yes, it does. And I think that in order for us to really magnetize our highest, version of wealth, whatever that feels like for us, there are things down on the ground that we have to change. We have to change the structures and the systems with which we're living within in order to accommodate millions of dollars, right? So, oh my gosh, I forgot the first part of the question.
Oh, that's okay. Can you explain channel writing?
Oh, channel writing.
Yeah,
yes.
Because that was something that was really interesting to me in the book. So can you go further into what that is and how that can support others?
Yeah. So channel writing in this particular book, I recommend. And channel writing, what it is a process to access a deeper aspect of self and a deeper communication with your invisible posse, your invisible team. So
I love that. Your invisible posse.
Yeah.
I love it.
I know. Well, that's what it is. I mean, for me. And again, back to like us feeling like we're so alone all the time, unfortunately we feel that way, but it's so not true. So I do like to think of it as like, my homies, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Homies. So how am I going to get down and chat with him? Right. It's not going to happen over a cup of coffee and a sandwich. It's going to happen more in, accessing the more gentle voice inside of us. Cause so many of us are super identified with just our mental thoughts, our conscious mind. And we're just hearing the loud part of the mind that's usually tyrannical, disorganized, or whatever. And so channel writing helps you tap into the other stream. And so after I witnessed that miracle, I could all of a sudden hear a different life stream inside of me that was more positive, optimistic, had bigger dreams. So channel writing, the process that I talk about in the book, helps you access that voice, helps you invoke if there's a specific angel that you want to talk to. And I give a whole encyclopedia of angels of success and confidence and wealth in there that you want to talk to if you want some insight. It's a process of, in a way, disarming your logical mind and allowing the creative flow to flow through you. And the more that you practice this, the more that you learn to trust the information that's coming through, as long as you start acting on it. So the only way to really build trust is to act on it and see if it works. And so actually, Summer, about 2 weeks ago, I found an old channel writing. This was at the beginning of my angel career, not career, because I wasn't even thinking about it as a career back then. I was just like, whoa, oh my gosh, angels are real, right? So I started channel writing with them, and I found this channel writing. I don't remember doing it, but 11 years ago. So I just found it 2 weeks ago. I look at what it said, and my mind was absolutely blown because it talked about, when I'm an author, don't worry about your books. We'll write them through you. We're going to write your spiritual books and your psychological books through you. So we'll write them for you. I had no concept, no interest in becoming an author or a spiritual writer. Even that would be insane for me that long ago. And there was so much other stuff in there. It was as if I copy pasted the work that I actually do today. And I would never have had the imagination for that when I was 11 years ago or 12 years ago, whenever this channel writing was done. So it was done within the first year of me witnessing that first miracle. But it took me quite a while to start coming more out of the spiritual closet. I had no interest to do it as a career, period, back then. So channel writing, do it.
Yeah. And I love where you talk about, disengaging with that cerebral, right? And just kind of getting away from just the frontal lobe, constantly thinking, strategizing, the concept, but I love in the book that you do give concepts and process. And I think that's really important to be able to visualize, disengage from our norm, right? Of what are we looking at? How are we going to strategize? How are we going to, all these things just flying at us, right? And convoluting what we really want to do and how we feel about A, B, or C, and then how that's coming through us and working through us. We're not working separately from it, right? Mm-hmm. It is a part of us. And so those angels, so to speak, they're saying, hey, listen, there are different ways of approaching this. There's different concepts here, but here's how you're going to put this into practice.
Oh, exactly. Yes.
And I think that's so important for each of us. And this is a great start to help folks start really exploring new sides of themselves and being creative and really thinking about wealth in a different way. And I think you're absolutely right, Corin, when you talk about those humanists and those that want to serve people. A lot of times, and I'm one of them, we do it because we want to support community. We want to lift others up. But in that process too, we forget, how are we lifting ourselves up? How are we learning to monetize and modeling that shift? And I think that's important. I think that's really important because you are part of that equation. You are important. You are valued. And I think these angels are telling you that. And so I love this concept.
Yeah. And, one of the interesting things, when I started shifting gears in my business and took a big leap of faith and risk to shift out of my traditional psychotherapy practice and start working more touching into an international audience, doing online courses and workshops and things like that. Like, I didn't know anything about doing that. So what was interesting is that when in working with the angels, the creativity that came through versus, I take a marketing program here, an online course here. And the creativity was really fascinating. And, the angels really were my marketing team in the beginning. I would sit and ask, I have this idea. I would channel like whatever course I wanted to create and how am I going to make this happen? And I remember talking to a business coach and I said, I want to do this 21-day program. And she's like, no one's ever going to buy that. Like, don't do it. And I said, I don't care. That's where the party is. This is, I know you want me to do the 6-month thing, but I just want to do a 21-day thing. And let me tell you, she said, no one's going to buy it. So, that program did pretty well. I mean, it made some money, right? Yeah. But at the end of that program, I converted like 70% of those people into a 6-month training. So it was like a 6-figure launch. Essentially. And it only took me 21 days to get there because people loved the 21-day work with the angels so much that they're like, we're going to do whatever. Like I had some miracles happen, 6 months, easy. Let's do it. So that's what I mean. It's like, it'll get you out of the box and working with angels and developing that relationship will give you sometimes the really crazy ideas that might actually work.
Yeah. And I don't know if they're so crazy, right?
Exactly.
I don't think they're crazy. I think it's just a different way of approaching something that can be successful for you. Mm-hmm. And that 21-day program was essential to opening up your information and the value of that information to others. Mm-hmm. And that gave them something to grasp onto and say, oh, you know what? We really like what she's talking about. How can we get more of this? Let's do a 6-month with her, Right. So it was needed. So I love that you actually went forward and you embraced your 21-day program because I think it's just, look at where it took you.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And guess what? Like the first book that I did was based on that program. I got a traditional publisher. It's not self-published and a great publisher at that. They did The Power of Now. I mean, it's like, a really great publisher. And that business coach who knows her stuff was about to talk me out of it. Right. And that's where learning how to trust your connection and your intuition and your access to deeper wisdom, what's right for you. That's why we have to learn how to quit disempowering ourselves all the time based on this expert and this expert. I mean, I do it all, but I also have myself and my own allies to kind of find a happy place where I'm going to thrive.
Absolutely. And I love that because I think that you're right. we can't discount our own inner voice, our own muse, our own angels, because that is taking away from who we are and our own creativity. I don't know if you were taught this, but having a doctorate in clinical psych and coming up the ranks of this profession, when I worked in California for one of the largest mental health facilities in the state of California, I was taught to not really tap into the spiritual, not ask people about their religious or spiritual side, because that was too much of that woo-woo, right? And that could really contribute to religiosity focus and focus on the devil, angel, that kind of stuff. But a lot of times when I rethought that, I thought, I think for some people, we're discounting a part of them and what's important and what helps them through those really difficult and challenging times. And so as much as I was trained to discount A, B, or C, I relearned and rethought that for myself, thinking we are made up of so many different things. And for some people, their spirituality is extremely important. So how can I discount that? How can I not ask about that?
Yes, of course.
Right.
Yes. And I had a kind of similar journey because I was having all of these angel experiences after that miracle, I was just dialed into angels. So I'm sitting with therapy clients and I hear or feel angels come in and they want to help this person. They want to do some energy work or they want me to do some energy work. So freaking awkward when you are a traditional therapist and all of a sudden this new reality is coming in and you don't know what to do. And so all the same training, all the same biases in my mind, oh, this isn't appropriate. But, when you have someone who's been crying for 6 months straight, who can't sleep, and you got the angels coming in, I mean, eventually I finally took a risk and I was like, look, I know this is weird, but there's a presence here. There's some angels here. I don't know what your philosophy is on this, but would you want to hear a message? Yes or no? Yeah. Sorry. And I'm apologizing the whole time. I know this is weird, and no one ever said no. No one. The atheists never said no. Right. The religious never said no. Everyone said, sure. And then when I started delivering the messages and I would ask, do you mind if the angels kind of help lift your vibe a little bit? Everyone says yes. So I started kind of doing it. And then, I had to talk to the legal team at camp, hey, so they just said, if you're going to do that work, just call it energy work and it's not therapy. So eventually that's kind of what I shifted into because the impact was so intense and so much more rapid than if we were just talking about trauma.
Right.
So yeah, that was a process, that was a process.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about this conversation, because you went through a process. Your process is the model for, these books, for, describing what your concept of angel is, and also putting that into practice and what that looked like for you, and changing your traditional professional way you approach therapy into energy work. And I think that was an evolution. That's something that you learned and tapped into, and something that came forward from you that you needed to figure out, how do I put this into practice? Yeah. And so I'm sure that is in your books, which is freaking amazing. And so it gives another approach and idea for folks that they themselves may be going through this transition as well. It may not be the same transition. It may not be angels. It may not be the spiritual realm, but it can be another transition. And I think that's really important. And that's why I asked earlier, how can you describe this as well, not just by the money aspect, but the other aspects of your life, because it changed you personally and professionally. Mm-hmm. And that's exciting to hear about. So I know that we've talked a lot about your background, about the books, about angels, the concept of channel writing. If there was one concept or action item that you would want someone to take away from this book, what would it be?
I guess depending on the moment, I would change my answer. But what's coming to me right now is really making a choice, a powerful choice. If there's something that you want to shift in your life, to not do the dance too much of should I, shouldn't I, because that is a trap. And I just want to say, whatever choice, there's something that that you sense may lead you to more joy, but it also may be impractical in your mind, almost like talking about angels was an extremely impractical choice when I'm already a successful therapist, but all of a sudden, okay, so if there is something inside of you that is wanting to, in a way, smash down an old way of being or let go of something that you even think to you is actually still working, like my private practice, it was still working. Why would I let go of a good thing? Okay. So sometimes we're called to let go of good things in order to have things that are more juicy and delicious to our soul. And so make a powerful choice towards that, towards joy, towards something delicious inside of you that's trying to be set free. And while you're at it, ask for more wealth and abundance in all of its forms to come your way. And this is what angels are so freaking good at, the more that you enlist your team, because sometimes we don't know how we're going to get there. And that really is where angels thrive.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you for that takeaway. And this is somewhat of a similar question, but as we come to the close of the interview, my last question is, if you were to leave the listeners with some words of wisdom today, what would those be?
Okay, I'll ask the angels for that one. Right now, they're just showing me dark clouds and a storm, and they're showing this radiant light behind the storm. And they're saying that the storm is almost, how my brain interprets it is the cluster blank that we conceive of our lives, right? It's like all of these solutions or all of these riddles to solve. They're saying, don't worry about how you're going to get there. Right now, their invitation is to focus on the light that's beyond the appearances of things. And so that light is what helps get you through any stormy or cloudy. They're saying it's part of its confusion. They're showing up as the light beyond the storm, just like the sun shines no matter what storm is happening. They're saying that this essence is part of you, and angels, again, help bridge the gap, help take the human and connect them, drill a little hole through the clouds so that you can receive love. And now they're saying, open your heart to not just the belief that angels are real, forget about beliefs. They're saying to the reality of angels and the possibility that they are real. And just by opening up to that possibility, that you can feel and experience a different level of joy, peace, and possibility.
Thank you so much, Corin, for joining me on the Core Women podcast and for those words of wisdom.
Thank you. So wonderful being here.
Absolutely. You can follow Corin Grillo on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and at www.coringrillo.com. You can also find her book on Amazon and at New World Library.
Thank you for joining us on the Core Women podcast with Dr. Summer Watson. We're so glad you're here and would love to connect more with you. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Core Women, and on Twitter at Core Women 1. For more about Core Women and Dr. Watson, visit corewomen.com. Want more support and resources for amazing women like you? Great! Join Dr. Watson and Jen Fontanilla at the Life, Love, and Money Collective, a Core Women production that aids in understanding the key traits that might be getting in the way of living a life that you are absolutely passionate about. Connect with Summer and Jen and find out more at thelifeloveandmoney.com.